Welcome to the Strategic Oracle, the transmission space where timing meets soul and wealth begins with the rhythm. Let's begin. I honestly cannot believe that we're here in December, the last month of 2025. Now, when we started the year, I had said, huge wake-up call, very disruptive. And it's interesting because I have to say that there are people in my world that aren't like totally in the world. They're on the fringes of the world and kind of gotten some feedback of, it wasn't that disruptive. And yeah, I know I'm doing the voice, right? Like, it wasn't so disruptive. Yeah, it's kind of from that. And yet everybody I talk to has had disruption in their life. Now, some of it is way evident, and some of it is the rumblings underneath. So when we look at December is how are you aligning your energy? Like, how have you opened up to the full power of yourself? And it's so obvious as to where you've been giving your power away. So December is a take notice month. It starts out really robustly. We get some flow pickup that last week of November. Mercury's been driving everybody else, nuts in November. There was that huge opportunity for healing and for revisiting things and refining. And, I'm going to even use the word rejoicing because even though it was frustrating, there was such clarity coming out of that. I mean, honestly, with every single person I've talked to, bar none, November was definitely a clarifying month. So December is saying, okay, now what? Now what are you going to do with that? We've got this momentous push in the first week, but then we've got week 2 is very deliberate. It's starting to get that precision. You're being asked to look at your own energy. And when I say energy, a lot of times I then say power, or I say power before I say energy, right? So it's in that same equation for my conversation. Week 3, there's a turn only because the sun moves from Sagittarius into Capricorn. It's a solstice. That's just what happens every December. And so we've got that big, robust, fiery, outward-reaching, extroverted energy of Sagittarius. And you go into Capricorn where he wants to start, or the energy wants to start taking things seriously. And so there's a slowdown, there's a different pace, and there's the ability to take shape. Well, I will tell you, as you head into that 4th week, there's this isolating circumstance that's happening. And it is because the stars are, and I always say conspiring. So the star configuration that happens, that's the underpinning of it all, is between a confrontation with Jupiter and Chiron. Not for the first time this year. It also happened in the fall. However, overtly or in the relationship plane of your life, Uranus, Venus, Capricorn, Saturn, they all come into play during that 4th week and say, we're going to make you feel like you're alone because we really want you to see in your life how you have been acting. Meaning, what is your identity when you're alone? Is it the same with other people? If not, what conditioning is hindering you and what is limiting you? Because there's so much opportunity in 2026. And when I say that, yes, there's support. There's this beautiful support all through the stars through the entire year. And there is also shakeup. So we have one big, huge event, which, I'm not going to get into because we're talking about December, but I'm just saying you've just come out of a window with that new moon in Scorpio on the 20th of November. That was a window into how that big door opening the 3rd week of February is going to go. December is the readying point for this. And that's why I'm being pedantic about going through the weeks, because that 4th week, technically the 4th week, there are 5 weeks in December. The 4th week is when you want to be really observant. There's a deliberateness and a precision as the month continues. And then the 5th week, it's almost like there's this clearer path. And then the last day of the year, you get this like brilliant ideas kind of landing, right? So it like the month begins on a really high note, ends on a really high note. And in between that, there aren't low notes. They're just deliberate points. So observing, making responses and taking action based on that observation. They don't have to be big forward, big swing for the fences kind of movements. They are in that 5 to 6 degrees. Like, if I just tilt the kaleidoscope, I see a different picture. So not getting swept up in a reaction from something that's happening, but taking a step back and saying, what's the bigger picture here? That's Sagittarius. What's the bigger picture? And then with Capricorn, it's like, what's my long-term view about this? How is this super amazingly beneficial to me when I move into lockstep with this observed change? That's the month, literally in a nutshell. So dates, the 10th of December, we've got the fog coming back in a little bit as Neptune turns direct. It's not going to be this big, like, oh my God, feel so foggy today. It's just more of a pressure that comes back that you're like, oh, I really loved the clarity, but maybe you didn't really love the clarity. There's other reasons why the month is super clear. That's why this deserves note, just because it's a star movement. But really, the one to note is down that solstice when Jupiter and Chiron come to that confrontation. And this is where I went into who were you alone? Who were you with other people? What limits have that created? Okay, now how have you given your power away? Great, let's go through that. So I'm bookending 2 podcasts here. That the other podcast that's coming out around the same time is what I call the 4 power mirrors, because I am starting to talk about power again. I'm hearing over and over and over and over and over again that it's 80% mindset and it's 20% strategy. Well, I will talk about mindset with a magnifying glass, but I'm not going to talk about mindset as an overarching theme, because that's not my jam. Because I know that you have to feed the mind over and over and over and over again. And I don't feel like doing all that effort. And I don't want my people to do all that effort. If you go underneath mindset and you get into power, boom sauce, you're done. And you don't have to, the mind is just going to follow, because the mind follows. Right. So yes, thoughts become things. And yes, the law of attraction. And yes, affirmations are really good. All those things are true, but you have to continually feed them. When you get to the power equation, you're like, I'm really owning this. I'm wearing my power. I feel my value. I can articulate it. People then respond to me in that way. And now, I don't really have to continue the chase. I don't like chasing the mind. However, it gives me the invitation to talk about power again. So here it is, front forward, and I'm going to go ad nauseum about it for 2026. The other reason why I'm going to do it, because 2026 needs that part of the conversation. Whenever you open up energy, that expansive motion, it makes everybody think that it's the best thing in the world, until they start dealing with it and they realize, well, holy crap, I am floating out in space and I have no grounding, and I have 16 choices, and I have 42 balls in the air, and my calendar's really busy, and oh, holy crap, I'm exhausted. And oh, by the way, I don't even know if I'm doing the right things. Yeah, that's because you haven't really stepped into your power. So we don't want that to happen. We want this to be so rooted and so leveraging for you that when you end next year, you are in if we want to use the 10x or the 20x or the 30x or whatever your X is, different position. So the magical tools that are going to help in December, because remember, I'm talking about December, right? I haven't forgotten. The crystal is really the bigger tool from a magical perspective this month. So I'm going to talk about all of them, but this crystal of rhodonite is part of the love family. But rhodonite asks you more than a rose quartz does or a rhodochrosite does. So when I look at the family of the pink love stones, those 3 come out. You do have thulite, you have morganite, you have pink tourmaline, there's pink calcite, you have all of those. True. But rhodonite was like, no, it's me. You talked about precision, and I'm the one. 100% real. Rhodonite will ask you questions that make you think about the answers. Where rose quartz is like, I love you, babe. Nothing you have to do. No worries. You got this. Even rhodochrosite's like, yeah, when you're with another person, yeah, I got your back. And then the other stones I mentioned, I'm not going to go into, but in comparison, rhodonite's like, yeah, guess what? I do have the black obsidian in me. And so depending upon what range of rhodonite you've brought into the world, then that range is really going to make you look at yourself and say, what needs tweaking? These are tweaks. This is fine tuning. This isn't big, huge. If you're entered December and exit December making a massive change, that's not what the month is about. It could be a pivot, which can feel like a massive change. But when you think about it, you're like, wow, I didn't really change my position. I just pivoted. So I'm standing in the same space. I'm just literally turning my body. It's that kind of thing. It's not, gee, I'm in the space of being I'm used to say mindset coach. And now I'm going to get into AI because I'm seeing this all over the place. And now it's almost like I'm going to go into an engineering role and I'm going to come up with, the mindset bot. I'm not saying this is wrong. If you then go ahead and do that and change your ideal client and change your marketing approach and change your overall strategy and change your pricing, and it's not that. A better thing would be like, yeah, you know what? I am a mindset coach, but ooh, wow. The one-to-one, I'm still going to keep that. This bot will help me go one-to-many. And guess what? I am going to make sure that my money equation and my, delicious work that I do is completely dialed in before I then make a change and extend into going into, because you're basically going into another market. So sorry I got so pedantic about that, but this is the precision of December. So when I look at the signatures and I'm asking, like, where are you giving your power away? Energetically, we have some information here. So the wise strategist and intuitive visionary will have more movement in the mental facility just because they come into the world through the mind with what you know versus who you know. And so because of that, there can be more on the wise strategist side than the intuitive visionary side, but it can be two sides of the same mirror, and that there's this talk, right? So for the wise strategist, it often comes out as negative self-talk. You can't trust that person. You can't trust yourself. You can't trust this room. You talk yourself out of really standing in your power. Whereas the intuitive visionary, it's different. You talk yourself into like pushing your power away. So the power pushing is that how that power is being attributed to someplace else. The motion for it from the intuitive visionary is, ooh, I have an idea. Let me pounce on that idea. And oh, by the way, you're only 3/4 of the way of the idea you came up with last week that you're now pushing forward. Yeah. So no, let's not do that. Let's stitch back. That would be really good for the intuitive visionary to do. The collaborative explorer and the ruling warrior come into the world with a who you know approach, right? So because of that, the mirror it can be a pushing mirror, can be a giving mirror. So it's just really like, the nuance of that. So for the collaborative explorer, hands down, it's a giving mirror. You're giving your power away because you're always thinking about others. And so you want to put yourself front and center and you want to start to lead. Period. End. In order to lead, you must feed yourself and nourish yourself and fill your cup before you go and fill other people's, or else you're just going to be way eroded, even more eroded than you would be if you didn't take that leadership role. So your inclination is right when you hold yourself back from that, but it's because of the wrong thing. You're like, oh, I'll save my energy if I don't step it up into that leadership role, because then I'll just end up giving more power away. And it's like, no, let's really wear your authority here. And when you do that, oh, guess what? And your power doesn't then get eroded. Ruling warrior, it's a little bit different. I can go back and forth on which energy is it. Are you pushing people away? Yes, always. I love you guys. You always do. But that's kind of a pushing thing, or you're giving your power to others because you're pushing it away. It's a really, I can split hairs on this. Basically, what you're doing is you're getting into a competitive landscape. And how you're doing that is, okay, in order to win, not everybody can win. So in order to do that, I'm going to prove myself to myself. And because I'm proving myself to myself, I'm probably pushing people away. But how does that giving come to be? Well, because you're giving people permission not to support you. And so therefore, you're not delegating. Weirdly, you're giving them more power. It's a really weird thing. So then you squish them. So you don't do that, and now you're in a big bucket of muck. So in order to get out of the bucket of muck, what if you took some, I don't know, I wanted to say medicine. I'm going to say it. What if you took some medicine that was in the mentoring role? What if you put yourself in the position of being mentor? So you could be a mentor in a group that you're winning in that group, and you're in a mastermind and you're winning. You always are. I adore you guys. Like, oh my God, I love you guys so much. But talking about success stories, amazing. And you said, maybe if I mentor one or two people. Yeah. What about in your own company? What if you looked at it like, because this is what I hear all the time. My people aren't supporting me. Yeah, because you're not letting them. What if you decided to be a mentor? In a little bit, like more of that coaching facilitating versus the authoritative proclamation, declarative leadership mode. Just saying. You're gonna be way more successful, and you might want to employ this. December is the time to notice it, and December is the time to make the adjustments. Creator Superstar and Loving Alchemist, you're both in that hiding mirror of power. And so the mirror, what it does is it shows you, this is why I'm saying mirror, because December is going to show you. It shows you where you're giving your power away. For these two signatures, you're giving your power away by not showing up, but very differently. Creative Superstars, I go ad nauseum on the fact you take yourself to the edge, you show up all the time, blah, blah, blah. And then you then get exhausted or overwhelmed, and then you pull way back and you disappear entirely. It affects your scheduling. It affects people's being able to count on you. You feel trapped. You're doing it for freedom, but actually it's creating way more weight and way more requirement and way more effort. You will get so much more freedom should you show up consistently. So whatever that means for you. Now, the Loving Alchemist, the mirror shows because it's you're legit hiding. You either made yourself into such a small, invisible entity, or you've decided that you're going to hide behind control. So if you're a loving alchemist and you do show up all the time, most likely you will be taking control of something. And it can show up in a million different ways. Like everybody thinks when they say control, oh, you've become really controlling. Yes, but no. Sometimes you've taken control over something that doesn't matter, but it makes you feel powerful. But honestly, it doesn't even matter. So you could be way overworking the 20% of your business that doesn't need it. You could be way overworking going on stages that don't do anything for you. That's what I mean when I talk about hiding and when I talk about control. Isn't this fun? Yeah, no, for real. It's a lot. You're giving your power away. I'm just going to proclaim that statement. December is where you can realign that energy because I say power is where energy meets action. So in that energy, we're looking for what we're noticing, and then we want to realign our energy so that we can show up for ourselves in ways that really support us as we end this year, and then we step into the year of opportunity. So those actions that we take, observation, recalibration, and then reorientation or situating or implementing, however you want to say that. That's it. This is December, last month of the year. So there is a call that I'm doing. It's a group clarion call, going to be super, super yummy. I'm not mentioning it all on my socials or whatever. I'm only sending it out for email. I'm only mentioning it on this podcast. We're only inviting people we know. So you have to be in the world. You're in the world. You absolutely want to create space to attend. It's December 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be 90 minutes. We're going to be doing, reflection and ritual and exercises. Yes, I'm going to give you information, but it's going to be very much in the discovery mode for you than in the me going, blah, there's all the things that are going to happen. If you can't make it, sign up anyway, and you can catch the replay. So the link is going to be in the show notes. And then if you use Edge 350, you can get in for free. The only reason why I have a gate on it, I'm expecting no one to pay. The only reason why I have a pay gate is because I don't want people to come that I don't know. Honestly, that's literally the only reason. So come to that. We're going to open up 2026, boom, next level, off the hook. So good. And there are, of course, moments that we want to be mindful of and watch out for. But for the majority of it, we absolutely want to be eking out every single drop of goodness that we can for the year. So with that, as always, thank you so much for listening and sharing with friends. And until next time, happy soul tidings. You've been listening to the Strategic Oracle, where success isn't scaled from speed, but from soul. If this stirred something real, follow it. Apply for activation, enter the vault, or pause right here. Integration is leadership too. Because the truth is, you were never meant to chase the timing. You were meant to become it.